Hello and welcome to episode 92 of MMO Weekly, presented as always by Chitty's Cheesesteaks. I'm your host, Sal Manzo, joined by MMO Contributor Mathias Altman-Kurosaki. Mathias, thanks so much for coming on tonight, man. It's a good night to be on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on, Sal.
Absolutely, man. And as we just started taping this, the Mets just finished up a sweep of the Red Sox here. Still a half game back of the last wild card, with Atlanta winning tonight against Colorado. So still a half game back, but great series, great pitching. Lindor as clutch as ever. So I just want to get your thoughts here and reactions on the sweep of the Red Sox.
Well, really, I think the big difference between this series and a lot of the series that the Mets have played this year was the bullpen was fantastic. You know, 2 scoreless innings on Monday night. They allowed a run on Tuesday, but they got the big outs. 3 innings, only 1 run. And then today, Tyler McGill wasn't very sharp, out after 4+ innings, but 5 scoreless innings from the bullpen, 3 consecutive innings with the ground ball double play. So overall, 1 earned run in 10 innings. That's what we expected from the Mets bullpen this year. And they showed up when the team needed them. So they were great in the White Sox series, but it feels like against a pretty potent Red Sox offense, they were even better this week.
Yeah, it's a great point about the bullpen. They really did what they had to do, especially today, like you said, 5 scoreless innings. Great series for them. And obviously, coming off the White Sox series is a better test here with the Red Sox. Obviously, been scuffling a bit, but a team that's fighting for a playoff spot themselves, much better offense. So very impressed to see the bullpen kind of take a nice step there. Diaz has been, much more impressive, especially with the slider. Ronnie made a good point of that, I believe, on the broadcast, talking about the difference in whatever has happened. Now he's really got that late bite on his slider again. It's made a world of difference for him. And obviously the pitching was great, like you said. I can't not talk about this without Francisco Lindor. Like I said, just such a clutch series. It feels like he was up in every big spot coming through for the team with big hits here, whether it was home runs or base hits, and obviously playing great defense. Just want to get your thoughts on, the series for Lindor and then just kind of his season overall now.
Yeah, I mean, Lindor again was fantastic this series. Tuesday night, he comes up, Cutter Crawford struck him out in his first at bat. He was striking everyone out. Feels like first time through the lineup. He comes up, hits a 2-run homer, and I think the Mets as a whole were great tacking on late in games. And it was a 1-run game entering the 8th inning 2 nights in a row. And last night with Lindor coming up with men on base, smacking an RBI double. By the way, he is getting close to Bernard Gilkey's franchise record of 44 doubles in the season. He's up to, I believe, 38 after tonight. And so he comes through again, 3 RBIs. He's a 5-tool player. I know everyone was worried after that 1-for-31 start because, this is New York after all. It's, as a city, we're very impatient. And, when a big superstar starts out 1-for-31, another slow start, but he didn't panic. And he's been great, especially ever since joining the leadoff spot. So he's the team's MVP, at least. I could say he's the NL MVP too. And I'd say he's also kind of the team captain. He called that team meeting back at the end of May. And that's sort of when the season started to turn around. So he's been great on the field. He's been great off the field. Not much bad to say about Francisco Lindor, if any at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. A guy that it seemed to take him a little while to figure out New York. But it seems like he has now, and he embraces being the team leader. Like you said, I think there's no question at that point that he's the leader of the team and everybody looks up to him. Completely different player since they put him in the leadoff spot, as we know. And he plays every day. Him and Alonso, I think, are one of 7 guys in all of baseball to play every day. So, it just says something to him, taking it out every day. His workload hasn't really changed as well. It sounds like he's always out early batting practice, fielding practice, that sort of thing. I know guys sort of they pull off the break at times on a long season. He seems to do the opposite. And obviously it's working for him. And it's a great year. You mentioned the MVP. He's absolutely the Mets MVP in 2024. And, it depends on who you talk to. I'm a little biased, but I think he probably should be the NL MVP. We'll see, what goes with September. If he continues to be on a tear here, maybe that can help. But, as far as that goes, I give the nod to the everyday player. Buck Showalter actually made a good point the other day on MLB Network that Lindor could go 0 for 4 and still win you a ball game. Guys like Ozuna and Ohtani being strictly DHs can't do that. So I think there's something to be said there for the defense that he plays on top of, being a premier offensive player now, stealing a lot of bases as well. So it's great to see him really now fully comfortable as a Met and taking on the role as being the guy, and hopefully that he can continue to slug his way help slug his way for the Mets to get into the postseason here.
And he's hitting 272 now too, and his OPS is up to 844. It's not like he's just no, he's playing great defense, but he's still hitting like 250 or 260. 272 it's nothing to scoff at. Now he's on that this long hitting streak. I believe it's up to 14 games. I mean, he goes out there every day. It feels like you could always count on him to get 2 or 3 hits. He has 16 multi-hit games in his last 31. So he just, he goes out there, he gives his best effort, and like Buck Showalter said, he could go 0 for 4 and still win you a game.
Yeah, Ohtani's probably going to have a 50-50 season, so, people are going to love that, so it's probably going to not end up being the MVP for Lindor, but I'm sure he's going to finish in the top 2 and at the least top 3. But, again, we'll see what happens here in September. Hopefully he can stay hot, because it seems like if he doesn't, the Mets could kind of falter. But this is a team that, again, they just seem to not want to go away. It feels like there's more than one time this season I thought the season was kind of in the books at that point, and, they weren't going to be making the postseason. They keep going on these runs, which is impressive. It's a, testament to
literally a week ago today, they blew that game against the Diamondbacks to fall 4 back. Here we are. They're a half game back now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, good stretch of games can help. So hopefully they can continue this through September. But, we talked about pitching before. I feel like we have to talk about David Peterson and what he's doing now. Since he's had this hip surgery, it seems like he's become a completely different pitcher. Sub-3 ERA, striking out the world. Don't know if it's a mixture of luck or whatever else, but he seems to be really hitting his stride at a time where the Mets really need it. And, it's impressive to help them kind of, hopefully make a playoff push here. So I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on Peterson here.
Yeah, I think Peterson, sure, there is a little bit of luck there. I saw some stat that he has like the largest gap between his ERA and his expected ERA in history. But, there's a method to the madness. He dodges a lot of traffic. He dodged some traffic again yesterday, although he did strike out a career high 11 batters on his 29th birthday, by the way. But he, in years past, I feel like he would, when men would get on base, he would just kind of crater, and it'd really end up hurting him. But we started seeing it in the second half of last year when he came back after getting optioned to the minors. He had a 3.3 ERA from June 30th onward. I think, nowadays he's been still, like I said, dodging traffic, but he's getting out of those jams. He's getting the ground balls. He's always induced a lot of ground balls, but this year he's getting them at the right time, getting a lot of double plays, and the strikeouts are coming. He's not necessarily a power pitcher, and he doesn't have the best stuff in the game, but a 2.75 ERA, that's not by accident. So he doesn't need to be an ace necessarily, but he's pitched like an ace lately. So maybe it was the hip surgery, but his stuff looks really good this year, and I'm excited to see him going forward. I think he's definitely a piece of this team's rotation.
Yeah, well, they're not going to have many pitches back after this year as of right now on the roster, so he would be no matter what. But yeah, it's great to see. It seems to me, though, that the surgery helped a lot. He seems unencumbered, like he's not, trying to baby anything as far as injuries and stuff like that. So maybe that helps with his mental capacity as far as what runners getting on base now and stuff like that. He's not worried, but it's something that you hope he can continue to do for the rest of the year, and then can repeat post 2024. That's something that'll be remain to be seen. We have to see him repeat the success, but as of for right now, it's a huge boost for rotation that we know is banking on guys like Sang and stuff to be coming back, which might happen. We don't know, but for guys like Peterson to kind of step up and fill the void is, a big reason why this team is still in it. It's a credit to him. So I want to transition to another left-handed pitcher, Sean Manaea. Obviously, he's been incredible the second half. Little mechanical tweaks seem to have done wonders for him, and someone that probably the Mets should really consider trying to bring back, past 2024. So just want to get your thoughts on Manaea's year here.
Yeah, he was solid in the first half, but I think the issue with him was the walks. And especially in the second half, I know he was Rocky's first start in the second half. He got beat up in Miami, but really, he has a 2.42 ERA since his start against the Twins on July 30th. And it really has been the drop in the arm angle. I didn't pick up on it right away, but I think was the start in St. Louis. Keith Hernandez was talking about like, yeah, it looks like Sean Manaea has dropped his arm angle, and you look on Baseball Savant, and it's like a steep downward angle in his release point. And yes, he's been. I mean, it feels like he's been striking out, double-digit guys regularly. He's been also working deep into games, which I know has been kind of a theme for the Mets pitching staff in the second half, especially these last few weeks. But he's going out there and giving you 6 or 7 innings every single time, and he's not allowing more than 3 runs. So he's been dependable, and he's going to opt out, it seems like. And I think the Mets should do whatever they need to do to try to retain him, because this is a guy who I think has the best stuff on the staff and could very well be an ace if you do re-sign him.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with him being an ace of the staff. I think I would love to see them go out and still get a Corbin Burns or a Max Fried to head that rotation, in the offseason. That would make me feel more comfortable. But I think this is a guy that absolutely, as far as, 2 or 3, mid-rotation starter would be, is a great luxury to have as a left-hander too. Controls the top of the strike zone with the fastball really well, it seems like this year. That's where he seems to be getting a lot of those strikeouts, which is nice to see between the variations of the sweeper and then the high fastball he's able to command up in the zone. It's impressive. And, they seem like he's obviously, someone with Severino with the oh my God stuff with the sign and everything, seems to have a good vibes about him in the clubhouse, which is cool. And, he's just been dominant the second half. He's another big reason why the Mets are still in this thing. They're getting so much length out of guys like him and Severino. It's impressive.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed watching him pitch this year. I've gotten to see him pitch a couple of times in person. Even if he doesn't have his best stuff, he finds ways to get swings and misses. And I think that's, like I said, the walks were an issue in the first half for sure. And I think he was one of the worst in baseball, at least among qualified pitchers, with walk rate in the first half. But he's brought it down 3 to 4% since the change in his arm angle. So if he can hone in on that command for a full season, I'd be really excited to see what he could do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I said, some of the Mets should absolutely try and bring back here for next year and however many other years they want to do that. But hopefully Manaea keeps pitching like in September, like he has the last 2 months, because if he can and the Mets get in, that's something that a lot of teams wouldn't want to see.
He'd probably be the game 1 starter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. Another kind of guy I want to talk about, obviously the Grand Slam tonight, Jesse Winker, just a solid pickup. It seems like someone, fits so well as far as in that platoon role, hitting righties with pop, seemed to fit right into the clubhouse really well. Just impressed with what I've seen with him so far.
Yeah, I was so excited when the team got Jesse Winker. He was a quote-unquote enemy of the Mets fan base because of his antics, but I really respected him, and I think a lot of Mets fans did. And he just seemed like a guy who was, born to play in New York. He really has embraced the fans, and the fans have embraced him. And it feels like every time he comes up with men in scoring position, he delivers. And today, again, he was in a 2-strike hole, and he worked back, worked the count, and drove a grand slam. He had the walk-off home run against Sir Anthony Dominguez. And to that point, he didn't have a home run as a Met. He had that big double against Justin Martinez, who's another fireballer in Arizona, which led to the go-ahead run. I'm really excited about Jesse Winker. There's a world where the Mets could try to re-sign him this offseason. Yes, he's a platoon guy, but he seems to have embraced the role as a platoon bat. So sure. If you bring him back as a left-handed DH, I know I don't want to see him playing the outfield a ton because he's not great defensively, but I would definitely like to see him on the team next year.
Yeah, no, great bench piece, lengthens everything out, like you said. It fits really well here, it seems like. And, all the waving stuff a few years ago with the Reds and everything, it was all in good fun. Like you said, he had a good time with the fans and everything, which was cool to see. So obviously someone that, you thought could do well here, and obviously he's doing so. So we'll see what happens the rest of the way, but very interesting. I want to round things out just talking about Alonso. Obviously, put the cap around things last night with the big home run. He had a pretty good August power-wise. Obviously, this isn't the walk year I'm sure Pete wanted. But, if he can catch hot in September, it would help him. It would help the Mets. It would help everybody. So, I just want to get your thoughts on Pete here coming down to the final month.
Yeah, I mean, I've been waiting for him all year to have one of those hot stretches that we know he can have, where every swing he takes, he hits it over the fence. And he has an OPS around 850 in the second half. It was 856 entering tonight, but we saw it again tonight. 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. He snapped the bat over his knee after his last at bat. And I get it. His biggest issue this year has been with runners in scoring position. He's only hitting 214 in this situation. So that's the number one thing I want to see him work on. Is that it's going to be, yes, he's a power hitter. He's a middle of the order bat for any team, but he needs to stop chasing a lot, especially with men on base. It feels like pitcher will throw him a slider out of the zone. He's always fishing at it, but we've seen these last couple series. He had a 2-run homer against the White Sox. He had the capper yesterday with the 2-run homer. He has, if he can go on that run, it'll really energize the Mets lineup. I mean, it feels like in the middle of the lineup, he's kind of been a little bit disappointing, and I'm sure he would say the same thing that, like you were saying, it's his contract year and he hasn't quite lived up to expectations, but I think he has a hot streak in him, and if he does get hot, this Mets lineup just becomes that much more dangerous.
Yeah, we really haven't seen Pete go on a big tear this year, and it feels like his struggles with runners in scoring position. It's not something we're really that used to. We seem that's something he's always been good at. Used to be, it felt like, especially last year, Lindor was the one that struggled with runners in scoring position and would kind of hit those garbage time home runs or whatever when they were kind of up a lot of down, and Alonso would be the one in the middle of things, making things happen. And obviously those roles have reversed this year. I wonder how much the contract plays into it all. He's pressed a little bit or whatever. But if he can kind of get going there, especially with runners on, just makes the Mets that much more dangerous, especially if they get in the postseason.
Yeah, and so I really do want to see him put it together. And he doesn't necessarily need to hit a home run every time he comes up. But I'm just asking, you come up with the bases loaded, maybe you just did a single, driving a couple runs. He came up before Winker's grand slam. He came up with the bases loaded and none out and struck out again,
right,
fishing. So if he could lay off those down and away breakers, that'd be a good start. But also just in general, hitting home runs in those close games, because a lot of his numbers when the margin, the run margin is greater than 4 runs are really good, but when it's close, they're not as good.
Sure.
So he needs to come up big in those clutch situations, but he's still an above average bat. He still has 31 home runs this year. So it's not like he's had I think his struggles have been a little exaggerated because of the contract year, but I still think he's capable of putting something great together in September.
Yeah, no, it's a down year for his standards. Absolutely. Like you said, at the end of the year, look at the back of the baseball card. The numbers are probably going to be there. It's just the struggle so much with runs and scoring position. It's just been so blaring that obviously, it's a concern. But like I said, a good month of September helped ride the Mets into the postseason, and everyone will forget that, and people will probably take the checkbooks out again. So, we could only hope for the best there. But I think that's going to wrap everything up for this week. We'll catch everybody as far as the Mets continue with this pennant push. We'll be there, cover it all. Hopefully they continue to win here and play good baseball, but we'll keep you updated as always. And, as always, let's go Mets.